Many live action movies fail to catch the same tone or atmosphere the manga or anime did. And even if they do something different, it usually doesn't feel like it's what made the series um, likable at all. Because back in the day, many shows used anime adaptations had deviated from their manga counterpart and still told a really good story, sometimes even surpassing the source material. Examples such as Kinnikuman come to mind, Kinnikuman Nisei. Both anime and manga, while telling the same stories, they take different steps, and still, if the tone is different, they have a thing that makes them really appealing. Another example would be Saint Seiya, which, if we look in with today's view, things keep changing with continuations and sequels, which make it a bit different to look if it's a sequel to the manga or to the anime, and it ends up confusing a few people. Contrary to that, we have the Bleach live action movie adaptation. It retells the Shinigami aka Soul Reaper substitute arc where Ichigo Kurosaki, who grants the ghosts, meets Kuchiki Rukia, a Shinigami who grants him her powers in order to save themselves from a large hollow. Unlike in the series, Rukia requests Ichigo to return her power, but it fails because Ichigo's Reiatsu, or spirit power, is weak and unstable. This is something I was wondering when watching Bleach. If you have given away your powers, how can you regain, uh, if you give all your powers away, how can you regain your powers back afterwards? While refusing at first, Ichigo gets attacked by Ranger Barai, who works on the Rukia's brother Byakuya Kuchiki, after failing to protect a child from a hollow during a duel with Ishida Uyu, and after hearing that it is a crime to transfer your powers to a human, especially if you're part of the noble Kuchiki family. This changed Ichigo's motivation, and he actually trains hard in order to fight Grand Fisher. If he manages to kill him, he would gain enough spirit power to return Rukia's power back to her. Honestly, I liked that. Byakuya and Grand Fisher were built up quite well. The fact that Ichigo took Rukia's training over time serious, and a little touch I enjoyed uh, more than the source material and the anime adaptation of that material. Byakuya is a very duty-bound man, and while he breaks at a point his promise he made, it seemed in it made sense in terms how he was portrayed and why he did it. Renji is more of a scumbag to his his earlier source material counterpart, and taunting Rukia to kill Ichigo to immediately get her powers back is something Byakuya is in support of, since Rukia would end up killing herself. Ichigo's classmates and Urahara didn't do much in this movie. Honestly, I'm glad they didn't play much of a role, considering the runtime, and at least Ishida had an interesting character arc, and working together with Ichigo to fight Grand Fisher was nice to see. Also, acting in the movie, it was pretty good for the most part. It made Ichigo a really likable character and did really well telling us about his struggles. Lastly, I'm glad they didn't get past the substitute arc for the sake of fan service and trying to shoehorn some damn bankers, goddammit. There was only one Shikai as well, and I think that's fine too. The movie concluded in a way that it can be it can either get a sequel or not, which is a good choice. It can stand out on its own and it has still room for a sequel. So I thought you can bring the amazing you can bring the amazingness of the Soul Society arc in just 1.4 hours. I doubt you can tell the Soul Society arc in one that short amount of time. Also, the action was pretty good, as there were obviously some bad stuff. The music didn't fit my fancy. They couldn't add a kick-ass soundtrack like number one, but some weird shit like drink your milk, like what the fuck. Grand Fisher was nothing like his OG counterpart, just some monsters that needs to be defeated, which is insanely disappointing. Rukia didn't get much development, in my opinion, but it was okay for a movie, and I can get why both Ichigo and her would save each other. It also felt weird that Ishida and all of Ichigo's classmates go to the same fast food restaurant. Ishida in particular, since it doesn't strike me like a character who would eat outside, but rather prepare his own meal. But that's besides the point. Well, in this movie adaptation, it's a movie adaptation, and I shouldn't judge it judge it too negatively based on these things. Also, Chad feels out of place, and his acting was rather disappointing. Honestly, the acting overall was weird, since the actors tried to imitate the anime and manga counterpart of the characters, which for the most part worked, but there's still scenes where it's just as bad as uh, the acting of YouTubers like Angry Video Game Nerd or Angry Joe, but just in a few scenes, so it didn't bother me too much. Regardless, I do recommend watching it if you're a Bleach fan. Certainly keep nothing that can keep up with the original, but the movie is still pretty good in compromising what they had to work with.